Hey, I'm going to talk about Godzilla vs. Kong. I'm also going to talk about two other movies that have absolutely nothing to do with either Godzilla or Kong. That's just the format of these videos that I do. And you don't feel obliged to watch the rest of the video after I'm done with that review. I definitely won't be personally hurt by your lacking of watching the entire video. First up is Godzilla vs. Kong. This is a brand new movie starring Godzilla and King Kong. It is the fourth of the MonsterVerse movies. I'm sure you're all well aware of what this movie is. I definitely enjoyed this movie. I knew exactly what it was going to be going into it. It's just big CG monsters punching each other, and that's exactly what it was, and it was delightful and a good time. If you've seen a number of Godzilla movies, you probably figure out exactly what happens in this movie. But like, you're not watching this movie for the plot. You're watching it for the big monsters hitting each other, and that's what they do, and it looks beautiful. You also don't watch a Godzilla movie for like the human characters, and I was pleasantly surprised by half of the human characters. There's basically two groups of humans, one led by Millie Bobby Brown and the other one led by Rebecca Hall. The Millie Bobby Brown group I wasn't really a fan of, but the Rebecca Hall group I really liked. She had a great dynamic between her and the little girl that's in the movie, and then the little girl had a great chemistry with King Kong. There was lots of heart there, and I really enjoyed that. My favorite stuff definitely was everything that happened in the Hollow Earth section of the movie. I really enjoyed it. It kind of felt reminiscent of some of the old Godzilla movies, and that was fun. Personally, I would rank this as my favorite of the MonsterVerse movies. So I'd go Godzilla vs. Kong, Kong Skull Island, Godzilla King of the Monsters, and then bringing up the rear is the 2014 Godzilla. So yeah, I definitely recommend this movie. It's okay if you haven't seen any of the other Godzilla movies, like any of the recent ones or any of the older ones. All you need to know going into it is that Godzilla exists, Kong exists, and there's also some other monsters that have been killed in previous movies. And then you can understand the entirety of the plot. It's pretty straightforward. If you have any interest in this movie, just go for it. It's a good fun time. Next up is The Craft. This is a 1996 movie that's about witches. It's witches in high school and all of the witchy shenanigans that happen. This movie is incredibly 90s. Like, they could not get more 90s if they tried. And kind of in much the same way that Indian in the Cupboard is like a slice of 1994, this movie is really a slice of 1996. You could just feel the 90s radiates from this movie in every moment. And yeah, I enjoyed it. It was fine. I do think like some of the charm does come from like the 90s stuff, but it also is a detriment to it as well. It's both good and bad. The 90s stuff is both good and bad. I enjoyed it all the way through. I liked the dynamic of all the different girls. I like how they each had their own issues. What I was also surprised by was, like most movies or TV shows, the teenagers are played by 20-somethings, but I honestly bought all of them as teenagers. And I think all of them did a good job too. I particularly liked the leader of the group, not the protagonist, the other chick, I don't know her name. She was kind of over the top, but like it felt very in line with like just a teenager being overly dramatic. And honestly, while watching this movie, like, yeah, there's lots of witchy stuff, but I feel like an allegory for just being a teenager in general, which is kind of neat. So yeah, I thought the movie was fun. Wasn't blown away by it. Definitely didn't hate it or anything. If you're intrigued, go for it. If you like witchy stuff, you'll probably enjoy it a lot. I will say too, the effects in the movie actually hold up for the most part. There's some wonky CGI stuff, but overall, it's good. It's good. And lastly is Butter. This is a 2012 movie starring Jennifer Garner as well as a bunch of other familiar faces. The premise is basically Jennifer Garner plays Sarah Palin, whose husband is really into butter carving, and the whole movie revolves around butter carving. This movie was interesting because like the other main character of this movie is from Blackish. I forgot to write down her name. But she was great. She was like the big highlight of this movie. Pretty much anytime she was on screen, she was killing it. She was so funny and so adorable, and like I was rooting for her the entire time. She was great. I'm really tempted to watch more of her stuff. Even with all that though, I did not care for this movie. And it really stems from just Jennifer Garner's character, because like Jennifer Garner did a great job in that role. The joke is just that like she's this ridiculous over-the-top Republican, and like left a really bad taste in my mouth, especially with like all the heart of this movie, because there is so much heart in this movie around like the little girl. She's great. And I really loved so much of this movie. Honestly, if you were to just take out Jennifer Garner's character and replace it with a more tame character, I easily could have put this at like the top of the quite like section. But because of how awful Jennifer Garner's character is, I can't put it any higher than the meh category. Also, I don't know why this movie is rated R. It does not need to be rated R. You could easily take out a lot of the swearing in this movie. You could probably tame down a lot of Olivia Wilde stuff. She plays a stripper she is so funny in this movie. She's definitely one of my favorite parts of the movie. My favorite part with her is how both the dad and the daughter are in love with her, and she just doesn't care about either one of them. It's so funny. But yeah, no, I did not care for this movie, so I definitely do not recommend it. It's just, no. Alrighty, enough of today's rankings. First up is Godzilla vs. Kong, seen at number 17 in the really liked category. And then The Craft is sitting at number 54 in the liked category. And breaking up the rear is Butter, sitting at number 67 in the meh category. And that is out of a total of 93 movies so far this year.